All right. Should we talk about television this week? Our audience are continuously commenting, like, why do you keep watching this stuff? I don't know. I just want to open the floor for, like, is there a reason that we continue? Because what's being suggested of us is, like, move on from this stuff and talk about, I don't know, I guess One Piece, which, you know, I'll have my thoughts about. I guess the reason that I've continued to talk about Star Wars and Marvel is because I was a fan of them for decades and decades and decades. And now they're in this bizarre holding pattern I can't look away from. That's basically it.
Yeah, and we're a pop culture podcast, and
right.
I don't know, Disney is basically kind of the culture, or has been.
Or they're a proxy for Hollywood, aren't they?
Proxy for Hollywood. But Ahsoka, yeah, it's a show. It's a show.
That's all you got. Oh, there was I did an impression the other day. I'm going to do it now too. I feel like I run into this kind of YouTube reviewer all the time. Ready?
Mm-hmm.
It goes like this. So Ahsoka episodes 4 and 5, everybody's arguing about them on the internet. What did I think of them? It was okay. That guy. Jeremy Johns, you know,
Oh, yeah.
Everybody's arguing and I'm the one in the middle.
All right, the Ahsoka series, it's half over now. Episodes 1 through 4 have aired. And for my part, the first half of Ahsoka, it's meh.
Yeah, so there was the Anakin episode. I really liked the Anakin stuff, and I really didn't like anything else about it. I was bored to tears, just like I was the rest of the episodes. But the Anakin stuff, a little bit like you get to see in Obi-Wan. Dude, I mean, Hayden Christensen should have played Anakin when he was in his, when he was 40 or whatever he is now. Because
his like smoker voice kind of fits it more. It's like more solemn and
and he still looks youthful, but he looks stronger, and he looks I don't know, he represents the character much better.
Ahsoka Tano went into the water and somehow is in either a dream or in her brain. They don't make it clear what she's in, or the world between worlds. We don't know. And she encounters a phantom, or maybe Anakin Skywalker, and they go through the past. Some scenes from like Clone Wars and where they actually have a young Ahsoka Tano interacting. They got a young actress who actually was young Gamora in
I recognized her instantly. I was like, what did it cost?
And I think she was a better Ahsoka than Rosario Dawson. But,
honestly, I think so too.
Hayden Christensen is saying like, do you want to live or die? And they go through some scenes from the war and stuff like that, and he does his side of this. What would you say he was trying to say?
You really ran out of steam there. Like, and
what did he do? I couldn't really follow it very well because I was like, wait, what's the crisis that Ahsoka is in? Besides,
I mean, it's very easy to agree with you that I feel as though the show doesn't have a story, and I feel like we go over this a lot, which is like, I could tell you that they're looking for a map, and Sabine wants to find Ezra, but like as a newcomer, this is a live action show, folks, and most of the audience is not going to be the cartoon audience. I feel like this is the monkey on this show's back. And so, like, I don't know why a Grand Admiral can be all that big of a threat, when you have Luke Skywalker fighting for the Republic.
Right.
I don't, it's Darth Vader. I get, like, here's a guy who is like the most, the chosen one, and Emperor Palpatine. I understand the threat there, but some admiral feels like they'll just run him right over. He's like, nah, he's a tactician. I'm like, okay. But like Luke Skywalker is kind of like Jesus Christ. And Ahsoka is like trained by the chosen one. It says, I'm not like super worried about some Grand Admiral, and he's missing anyway. And some people want to use a map to find him and escort him back. I'm just a little confused about a lot of these mechanics, but it's okay. I've watched a lot of fantasy where it's high concept and nothing's explained all that well. And frankly, nobody knows, including the creators. But if there's a core story, if there's an emotional story at the heart of it, then great. Then that's what we can track. So maybe you know, I think the only one, by the way, the only one who really has one that I feel like I can attach myself to, because that's what I'm looking for in any story is like, as the train's going by, I'm looking for like a latch that I can kind of latch onto and like go for the ride, you know? And otherwise it just feels like there's just a train passing in front of me and I'm just standing there. Like, I'd like to go on this ride at some point.
Yeah, Ray Stevenson is obviously the person, Balin Skull or whatever his name is.
Balin's got something there, which is just, some complex motivation. And we still don't fully understand, even though in the most recent episode, he was explaining it verbosely. But it's still
and always like stopping just short of like telling you what he's up to.
And while she's in her kind of comatose state in the water, she encounters Anakin Skywalker, who says he's going to complete her training. And it's left ambiguous. Are we dealing with a Force ghost? Are we dealing with the world between worlds, which is a place where you can interact with the dead or you can interact with all time at once, you know? I think it's supposed to be that, which again is from the cartoon, not my Star Wars.
Yeah. Not my,
and that's something I want to add too. I want to add that like, not one lick of this feels like the original trilogy, you know? So,
it's something else. It's something else. And it was nice to see Hayden. I mean, one thing about Hayden is that really struck me is his sword play. His sword play is really so good.
Yeah,
like you can tell he was like trained for in those prequels, and he does like because no offense to Rosario Dawson, but she sometimes looks like a middle-aged woman, like slowly swinging a sword. It's just that's what it is.
Yeah,
you know, she wins at the end. I'm like, bullshit. Anakin was doing way better than her.
I thought that it told me more about Anakin than it did about Ahsoka. It told me some things about Ahsoka, but
because they have that like kind of weird, you know, child soldier thing where you're like, oh, that is kind of strange to bring your apprentice into a battlefield and expect her to be this child soldier with you.
And that first one they went to was apparently their first mission. It was in Clone Wars, and it was Ahsoka's doing that caused a lot of clones to die or something. And but I think, I don't know, maybe what struck me was, and it helps to have seen Tales from the Jedi, because there was this short film that they did for Tales from it was an animated one where it was Anakin training Ahsoka, and his training practices were pretty cruel. And the whole thing was like, you're going to have to be rock solid. You're going to have to be as good as me or close to it. I'm not going to be patient with you. I'm not going to work slowly with you. And in that training in this cartoon, they had a bunch of clone troopers use, stun guns on her, and she just kept getting hit. And every time she got hit, she was incapacitated, like in a comatose state for like 9 hours. And then he'd be like, okay, again. And she'd have to, and eventually after days of this, she was able to repel the fire. And I was, I like this idea that like this Anakin guy, not only has he always kind of had a problem with compassion, but to him that was compassion. That was like, hey, like I've got to, you can tell that this guy is traumatized by his own childhood. And he thinks that the way to solve just about any problem is to repel it with power. Like, well, if I just get more powerful, then I won't have a problem. If I just, it's kind of like, the equivalent to it would be like, if I just get more money, if I just get a promotion.
I'm teaching you how to lead, how to survive. And to do that, you're going to have to fight.
Then I'll be able to defend myself against just about anything. And then instead it turns into a hunger for power instead. And that's what's in this show is like, they're out on the battlefield and Anakin's like, she's like, what if I don't want to fight? Is this what I'm going to teach my own student? Is that the legacy is violence? And he was like, yeah, sure.
And he's like, do you even want a legacy? That was a really great line there where it's kind of shows his, I don't know, almost like,
yeah.
Like, do you even want to apprentice? Do you even want to pass this stuff on? Yeah.
Which is really cool. Cause it means at least where he was at that moment in his life, So here's somebody who has the potential to be the most powerful Jedi that ever lived, and he's not interested in the next generation. He's kind of like a hoarder of power. Even when he was a good man, he was a hoarder of power. He was selfish with power, and he looked at that as virtue. He looked at that as like, well, power is safe with me, so give me more power. And I'll keep everybody around me safer and safer and safer until he destroyed everybody around him and put himself in a tomb. You know, I was like that's good stuff.
It's like, I feel like this could have been another Tales of the Jedi season almost. You could have even if you wanted to do all this weird map stuff and put Thrawn into it, I feel like it could have been like, maybe it doesn't have the prestige that live action does or something, but it should have. I feel like it should have, especially since it's so connected to Rebels and it's so connected to so much other, like even the Anakin stuff. There's so much text you have to go through to understand any of it.
Unfortunately,
And so if it was just a couple of vignettes, 20-minute episodes, maybe I think it would have solved a lot of the problems. And you got in the voice actors to really emote the lines and stuff like that.
Yeah, I've always wanted to see post Return of the Jedi Anakin. You know, Anakin as a Force ghost. They did a little bit of it in Legends, I think. I one of the stories that I feel is like sorely missing from the Star Wars content that we've gotten, and again, it was in the books, was Leia finding out that Vader was her father. It's like a big, giant narrative thing that's never explored really in the movies. It is never explored in the movies or shows.
Really?
And what's great about it is that, where it's really ripe for a good story, is Luke went on this entire journey of forgiving and redeeming his father. And after that's complete, the sister finds out that the guy who tortured her, the guy who destroyed her home planet, the guy who terrorized the galaxy is her father. And she wasn't there for any of that. And they should be in completely different places psychologically about that issue. And it's a movie I would love to see, you know, but you don't get to see that movie.
No, probably never will.
And so the closest you get is like, well, you can cast somebody to play Ahsoka, and you could cast Hayden Christensen, who's still kind of age appropriate. Something I don't understand, by the way, is they de-aged him in that one really ugly shot in the cliffhanger of the previous episode, and then for this episode, he looked lovely. It didn't look like they did much de-aging, if any. He looked great.
Technically, this whole dream sequence I think looks really good. It looks very artful. It looks very intentional. I love the costume design, seeing like the Clone Wars costumes cool. on real Hayden. I feel like that it does tie things together in a way that's pretty satisfying. Because you had this other actor playing him in the cartoons, and it's like a totally different performance in my opinion.
You need to remain calm. Think, feel the intention of the trooper who will fire first.
If you're trying to follow the Ahsoka show and the Ahsoka character and the Ahsoka story, and you start with this show, I don't even think Anakin was mentioned before this episode. And like, shouldn't he? At least Qui-Gon was mentioned in the first couple of episodes of Obi-Wan. Like, we do need to kind of like, okay, is Anakin part of her story? Then introduce him, or in some way, make him like. Does it? I've heard a lot of people talk about like it weighs on her that she wasn't able to prevent his downfall. Well, I don't know anything about that in this show. I just have to.
They could have made that something. They could have done that with Sabine. There was kind of like a natural thing they could have inserted with Sabine, with legacy, with her trepidations, with her past with Anakin. They could have easily inserted that with that relationship, and they didn't.
I like the moment where Anakin's describing, he's like, you're part of a legacy, Ahsoka. You have all my knowledge. I have all my master's knowledge. My master has all of his master's knowledge. And someday you'll have an apprentice and she'll have your knowledge. And they didn't really go much further, but even just that alone was cool, because we all know that Sabine is that apprentice. And we all know that adult Ahsoka probably isn't feeling very secure in like, oh yeah, I'm really passing on something special. I'm really passing on something enduring, something that is going to outlive a lot of us. She is failing currently as a master at that point in the story. And so I thought that was nice to at least give a nod to, but they did a thing where Anakin can kind of cross between dark and light. Don't know how I feel about that, because to me, like, being redeemed doesn't involve like engaging with evil and with evil spirits, again.
Yeah. I feel like that makes me think it was all in Ahsoka's head. So did she redeem herself? I felt it would be more impactful if it was just Anakin, if it was pretty explicitly his Force ghost.
And I think it is him. I think they just decided to do the Force ghost thing in a completely different way and not explain it.
Yeah, I don't think that was the right way to go.
Yeah.
It was just so they could do animated GIFs of him turning back and forth from Anakin. They could post it on Twitter, and people would be like, "Yes, yes."
I mean, at least have him like appear as a Force ghost, so we're all aware that this is a Force ghost, right? Yeah. And then move into your Clone Wars stuff where Anakin, the Force ghost, is showing you visions, and that would have been fine. Instead, you have to make it confusing. World between worlds. I don't know.
I don't even know why because the world between worlds is kind of, I don't know. It's like a different thing. The rest of the episode is just Hera like flying low, trying to find her, and Jason is like, "Oh, he's just fly lower, Mama." It's like, it's so boring.
It's so boring. The rest and space whales. I don't get it. I don't know what's going on with space whales and
No.
Ahsoka the White. Everybody's like, "Oh, Ahsoka the White," but like I don't see it. Yeah, okay. I don't know what that is. Star Wars. I watched Star Wars Theory, and his whole thing is like, she was saved by the embodiment of the light side, the daughter, and she's followed by an owl goddess. Like, I don't know any of this. Can we get this reintroduced in the show or something? Because right now I'm just seeing like the derpiest fucking shit. This dude, Star Wars Theory, who I like the guy, but he tweeted something like, I am genuinely bad. Like, I hate the Disney Star Wars stuff generally, but come on, guys. Dave Filoni is giving us world building and lore building. Like, this is everything that you would ever want in a Star Wars show. I'm like, he's scratching his head at me. I'm scratching my head at him. I don't get it.
Yeah, I don't get it. And this most recent episode with Thrawn. So Ahsoka talks to the whales and after being saved by Hera, and they convince the whale, because the bad guys left in their ship there. They went to this other galaxy, which I kind of have a problem that they go to other galaxies.
Yeah, like that's like way outside of scale. We don't have enough planets in the fake first galaxy. Like, and then 10 years from now they'll do a show like, this is a new universe or something. So
they somehow convince the whale. She doesn't even know how. She's like, just gonna fly in their mouth. I don't know what they said. It switches to the perspective of Sabine, because they did this lame thing where they're riding inside the whale, and they're like, you could tell me a story, robot, and he starts with like, a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, or whatever.
A long time ago, in a galaxy far, far away.
Yeah, it felt a little bit like humming the Star Wars theme, the thing about like sriracha, like it tastes like soap to some people, and it doesn't. Like there's a genetic cilantro. What did I say?
Sriracha. Sriracha usually doesn't taste like soap to people.
You know how Ahsoka tastes like soap to some people?
It tastes like soap to me, that's for sure.
Put a little Ahsoka on my salad. I think that like if you have the genetic predisposition to like the prequels, you will like this. Yeah. And if you have like the genetic like revulsion to the prequels,
Yeah. And it is different enough from the prequels, but
it's got the same instincts, which is like, let's just shoot it boring. Let's have the story not really like take any direct paths to emotional impact. And then like, let's have like moments of coolness that will paper over the kind of sloppiness. And then let's have like angry fans insist it's good.
Sabine arrives at the planet with the witch and Balin's skull at the planet, and the Thrawn shows up on this planet. Well, the planet kind of looks cool. It's like a somber looking dirt planet with like wolves. That's kind of cool. I don't know. It's like gothic.
I guess. You know what? I don't know if you could have possibly made a more boring planet.
As the dirt planet. This is different from the sand planet. This is a somber dirt planet.
Yeah, in a somber dirt galaxy.
Somber with whale skeletons around it.
Whale skeletons and witches. And these are the Dathomir mothers. These are the sister witches of the mother Dathomir. Like, somebody want to explain any of this shit to me?
I heard like a really absurd rumor that like the witches are gonna, I don't even do this, sounds so fake, but the witches will cast a spell that's gonna get rid of the force in the universe.
Oh, very cool.
So
To me, that's perfect. That's exactly what I'm talking about. That's like if your understanding of Star Wars is like in terms of force jump and force speed, like it's not trying to understand it as an emotional story, but trying to understand it as like game mechanics.
So only they'll have magic, but they won't have their force. See.
I didn't watch it, but I saw Star Wars Theory put up some video today that was like, it's time we talked about this. And I'm pretty sure it's magic.
So they try to do this really cool intro with Thrawn, where he comes in the like weird Star Destroyer with like has like battle damage, but it's like fixed with gold or whatever. And then he like unloads with a bunch of stormtroopers, and they're all going like Thrawn, Thrawn, Thrawn. They're like weird stormtroopers. Like with like ribbons all over themselves, and like they gotta get more witchy. They gotta get more witchy for the solemn dusk, the dust planet. And then, but the lead stormtrooper is kind of cool. He's got like a face in his face. That's kind of interesting. I don't know, design wise.
Yeah, I thought that the aesthetics of that whole thing were pretty cool. The giant Star Destroyer, the big sort of. The Empire is back, the big Empire moment, but there's just one problem. Who the fuck is this guy? And how does it?
Well, they're saying Thrawn, Thrawn, Thrawn. How do you not know?
Yes, I should have known.
But one thing about the original trilogy is I wish that the stormtroopers were like Vader, Vader, Vader. Just to really pump up Vader.
That is a great scene in Return of the Jedi when Palpatine. I'm not being sarcastic right now. When Palpatine shows up and there's armies,
and they're like Palpatine, Palpatine.
Yeah. Palpy, Sheev. You don't have to continue that, but we prepared a song for you.
Cancel the dance number.
That's very Robot Chicken. I was just thinking the other day about how those Robot Chicken Star Wars specials were so good. Remember they actually made Lucasfilm had Seth Green make Star Wars Detours, a whole season of Star Wars comedy. That was kind of based in the Robot Chicken thing, and then Disney bought them that year, and they canned it. They canned that show. You'll never see it.
That's a shame. They come on. Give me the failed Batgirl movie and give me that.
I don't know how an entire army gets. Did they get sucked into a space whale hole? I don't know.
It's been a long time. It's been a while since I've seen the cartoon. I don't even remember. I know that like. Somehow the whales, because like Ezra's fighting Thrawn and the whales like entangle with the Star Destroyer and they warp or something. I think I remember. Yeah. So Ezra was in the Star Destroyer, and then they warped together. So that's how they got trapped there. I don't know.
All right, that sounds great. I heard a theory that was like. Something like there's like undead stuff, like maybe these stormtroopers are undead, zombie stormtroopers, and then because the Dathomir sisters and mothers and the Darth Maul people, they bring people back from the dead, and so maybe Darth Maul will come back under these pretenses.
Oh no. Then they'll cast magic to get rid of the Force. So we're hyping this Thrawn guy up for like 5 episodes.
Yeah.
And I can't help but be underwhelmed.
He comes out, he's like, I'm buying Twitter. Let that sink in.
With his sassy gut.
Normally, in a story, you set up the stakes. And so all I know is like it'd be really bad if this guy came back. The Empire might be back. But I don't know why he would pose that challenge. I don't know.
Yeah, you need some sort of show of force to show that he is the threat. And even like Sabine, they have like a history, I think, a lot in the show. So like some sort of acting on her part to be like, oh no, this guy's a serious business. Like, I'm scared or I'm worried. But she just, is like stoic and bored like usual. Anything to give me that this guy's a threat. This guy is serious business. And, but no, he like shows up. He like puts like a bunch of meetings on the Outlook calendar with the witches, and he like lets Sabine the whole thing with like letting Sabine go, giving her weapons, and then he's like, but then follow her and kill her, and it's like it's almost like a half-assed attempt. To
you're like, are you sure you don't want to rewrite this part of the script? It sounds like you wrote yourself into a corner and then like you couldn't get out of it.
It's like follow her to kill her, and then like so I don't really understand any of that. And if like Ezra is like 10 minutes away, like why hasn't he ever found him and like killed him?
Yeah, which like undermines the power of this army pretty quick, where you're like, I guess this Jedi though, it just kind of cohabitates in Dust Planet. I don't know. I heard it was one of the best episodes of Star Wars ever, is what I heard.
Sabine gets let go and she's reunited with Ezra, and I don't know. It's like they do some snarky comments with each other, and then they hug, and I don't know. Like what's important about Ezra again?
They're certainly not in love, those two.
They made it really a point in like the first episode or whatever. It's like, you are like a sister to me.
We're not really family, but you're like a sister to me.
I get it. You're perfectly platonic. You risked the entire galaxy to see this guy, and then you finally did. You're like, yeah, you showed up a little late. Well, you know that I'm always tardy. Never was very good at showing up on time. What's going on, knucklehead?
So he's like, what's going on? She's like, let's not talk about it right now. It's like, how about you do? Because there's like you like betrayed the galaxy, and there's apparently this horrible tactician that you've unleashed on the galaxy.
Yeah, the world's greatest chess player is about to get Luke Skywalker. What's the threat? People didn't like Boba Fett, but like I'll tell you, like Boba Fett had a story. Now I know that they didn't like that, like, oh, he should have been Mandalorian, or he should have been, he should have been Space Cowboy. He should have been more of a bad guy. He should have, so I think a lot of the thing, or there shouldn't have been 2 episodes dedicated to a different show in the middle of the season. Like, fair enough. But, I guess you can dislike the show for not being the show you want it to be, but I do think that show had a story, and that story was what happens if a guy dies. He gets another chance at life, and when he does, this time he makes the first connection with other people that he's ever made in his life. He's always been alone. He's been confused and alone since he was a kid. That's a story. That's something like we can do something with,
Yeah. It might not be the story you wanted out of Boba Fett, and it might be like weird, and he like takes off his helmet too much and goes into the same bar too many times, but at least it's a story.
That's a story. That is a story. Yeah, right.
Incorrect.
Subscribe to Red Cow Entertainment on Patreon for full episodes every other week.